Punchline. I'm your comic strip critic, and 2013 was kind of a crazy year, wasn't it? I got to interview a cartoonist for school, I got some very cool prints in the mail from one of my favorite syndicates, and let's review this little gem from last year's Top 5 of 2012 video. Add Jerry Scott to the list of cartoonists who I'd like to meet someday, because Zitz is really, really good. And then in May at the Comic Arts Festival, this happened. Pickles, gosh darn it. Yes, sir.
I know your face, but I can't remember your name.
My name's Mr. Kirkman?
I'm Jerry Scott.
Jerry Scott, hi. John Weber. Good to nice to meet you. Yeah.
Okay, so am I?
I'm the last one.
Oh my gosh, it's the comic critic.
Comic critic.
Comic critic.
Thank you.
It's the comic critic. Wow.
I saw you come like, absolutely. Marcus Reason, I have to come down to see
Oh my gosh.
if I could just... I still can't believe that actually happened. It's crazy. 2013 was insane. And then, how could it have gotten any better for a comics lover like myself? Okay, yeah, that'd do it. And as a little cherry on top, I discovered some really, really nice comics this year. So let's finish off the year with our top 5 comics that I reviewed in 2013. Just in case you missed my top 5 comics of 2012 video from last year, all the same rules from then are still being applied now. So, a quick rundown for the uninitiated.
Rule number 1.
Only comics I actually reviewed this year. No Fraz, no Non Sequitur, no Prince Valiant.
Rule number 2.
Only comics that appear in newspaper pages that are still creating new strips. So no Peanuts, no Calvin and Hobbes, and no Sluggy Freelance or Zen Pencils because those are webcomics.
Rule number 3.
I had to have reviewed it in a modern time frame. Yes, Foxtrot still runs in newspapers, but the Camp Foxtrot storyline that I reviewed was from over 15 years ago, so I'm not counting it as a candidate. So with those qualifiers in place, let's not waste any more time and take a look at the top 5 comics that the Punchline reviewed in 2013. Number 5. Red and Rover. I wasn't able to give this comic its own dedicated review, as it had to share screen time with both Zitz and Dustin in one of the Reuben Awards videos. But this strip about a boy and his faithful dog, taking place in the 1960s, is simple, sweet, and charming. I mean, the dog's name is Rover. It's hard to get much more straightforward of a name for your pooch than that, unless you named him Fido or maybe Snoopy. There's definitely an air of Norman Rockwell-like nostalgia permeating Brian Bassett's work, and it even looks like a painting in some strips to an extent. The characters aren't necessarily the most complex, there's not a whole lot of conflict, but sometimes a comic doesn't need that. All that needs to happen is that you need to enjoy reading it, and Red and Rover certainly gives me a nice little warm and fuzzy feeling every time I read it. And I still say that Rover is related to Doug. Is that okay with you, boy?
'Cause I love you. Can I stay?
Oh, of course you can. Number 4. Diamond Lil. This was probably the biggest surprise of the year for me. I admit that I initially chose to review Brett Koth's work because I was actually looking for a comic to do a negative review on. I was pleasantly surprised, however, when Lil turned out to have a sharp, sassy wit that left me laughing a lot. Part of what makes it work so much is the over-the-top character designs. Lil, Stupid the Bird, yes, his name really is Stupid, he's great. Sam the bartender, they all have these exaggerated facial expressions that just crack me up. Everyone's squinty eyes, the bulk on everyone, the uber-pursed lips on Lil's friend Edna, they all add to the hilarity. Go on, read this and tell me that you're not laughing. Don't change what you're doing, Mr. Koth. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. And I apologize for that horrifying mental image. You can all put your brain bleach on my bar tab. Number 3. Ginger Megs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a zombie strip made it onto my best of list. The first comic to earn the title of Legacy Strip in my eyes, Ginger Megs is also our first foreign winner, hailing from Australia. Jason Sheffield has really taken charge of the Aussie icon, with entertaining dialogue and some really engaging artwork. The The comic is just a ton of fun to read. A couple viewers called me out on comparing Ginger to Dennis the Menace, and actually, on review, they're right. Ginger's actually more menacing than Dennis is these days. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. An overall feel, something about this strip reminds me a lot of a Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s or 90s, like Heathcliff or the Tiny Toons Adventures. It just has that same sense of over-the-top cheesy goofiness and hyperactive energetic fun that sucks the reader in. May this little scamp continue to entertain the land down under and the world all over for years and decades to come. Number 2. Dick Tracy. Holy cow, a second legacy strip made it into the top 5? What is the world coming to?
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
The current incarnation of Dick Tracy, under the direction of Joe Staton and Mike Curtis, has just been a blast to read. While the classic adventure comics like Flash Gordon are sadly gone, and comics like Prince Valiant and Mandrake the Magician are showing their age, this seems like an adventure comic for the modern day. Incredibly stylized and detailed artwork creates a visually engaging world, and the writing and action are continually fun and actually really interesting. And much like Batman's Rogues Gallery, Tracy's current villain is far more interesting than the hero himself. I cannot wait to voice Abner Cadaver. If you're looking to continue the adventures of one of fiction's longest running detectives, I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And before we get to the number 1 comic of 2013, there is one honorable mention on the list that should be talked about. My rules disqualified it from placing in the top 5, but it's still an excellent webcomic, and of course, I'm talking about Sluggy Freelance. It's just an incredibly engaging roller coaster ride of a comic. Pete Abrams simply must be insane to run his webcomic the way he does. It's fun, awesome, romantic, dramatic, and filled with enough crazy to make even the Joker stop and say, Wait, the inflatable excavation robots formed their own underground society? Seriously? Sluggy is well worth your time for its great artwork and well thought out story. If you're a fan of Doctor Who, I think you'll feel right at home. And now, number 1. Last year, I had some difficulty deciding between Leo and Retail for 2012's Best Comic. They're both really good, and I'm glad that they competed with each other so well. But this year, there was really only one candidate in my mind from the word go that I knew was going to win. And oh boy, does it deserve it. So here we go. The Best Comic Strip of 2013. Number 1. Heavenly Nostrils. Where do I even begin? How about on the very first day, where right out of the gate, the artwork was simply spellbinding. More than anything else, the artwork is what grabbed me and refused to let go. Dana Simpson's art has a style of curves and, for lack of a better word, grace that really gives Heavenly Nostrils a unique look. And while I think that the artwork is the strip's strongest aspect, that doesn't mean that the writing and characters are any slouch either. The entire cast, from main characters Phoebe and Marigold, to side characters like Dakota, Todd the Candy Dragon, and the Blart Goblins, are all great fun to read and really capture that sense of childhood that's one of the strip's central themes. In my initial review, I favorably compared this comic to Calvin and Hobbes, and apparently I'm not the only person who thinks so. Go Comics has noted the same thing, and when you're getting favorably compared to one of the greatest comics to have ever existed, that's a really good sign. That's not a comparison that I make lightly. When I say something like that, I want you all to realize how seriously I'm taking it. On my personal Go Comics page, I have Calvin and Hobbes right next to Heavenly Nostrils, and the two work perfectly together. It's wonderful. And so, it is with great joy that I am giving the Punchline's Best Comic Strip of 2013 award to Heavenly Nostrils. It is a masterpiece of 21st century cartooning, and I am really looking forward to what Dana Simpson has in store for the future. Congratulations to her, Brian Bassett, Brett Koth, Jason Chatfield, and Joe Staton and Mike Curtis for all the excellent work that they've done this year. The bar for 2014 has been set very high. I'm your comic strip critic, and I read the funny pages in search of comics like these.